Hi guys, thanks for watching. Andy here, talking today about crystals. Crystals, very powerful, wonderful energy and a great thing to use on the manifestation journey. If you're into any spirituality thing at all, they somehow help. It varies from one tradition to another and from one person to another, whether you feel they're actually helping you or whether you feel you're focusing your thoughts on them. Whatever, I mean, crystals are a wonderful thing and they are every bit as diverse as you and me. But they're also very, very expensive. I worked in a crystal shop for a few years and there's something I discovered while I was there. I didn't tend to tell it to customers, but I'm going to tell you now because I don't work there anymore. And the bottom line is this, right? I'm amazed that so few people seem to grasp this reality. The thing about having the biggest, most powerful, most beautiful, most energetic crystal of any kind that you could want is the realization that we live on one, the Earth. It's a huge crystal and it's absolutely full of all the different special, specific crystals that people want to use in their manifestation, in their life journey, in love, whatever they want to use them for. And so we have this idea, and it's very much a Western thing. It's almost a sickness of the modern age of kind of Western spirituality and Western life. We think we can have spiritual advancement if we've got plenty of money to fork out, plenty to pay for these things. And there's this belief that if we haven't got the money to pay for things, there's kind of something wrong with us, and it's not good enough. A lot has been said about Reiki. Now, with the best will in the world, Madame Takata, who was a Hawaiian lady, I believe, went and studied Reiki with Dr. Usui in Japan and was there a long time. And it wasn't an easy thing, Reiki, in those days, and I'm sure it's no easy. We just have lots of spiritual practitioners who want to say it is. And so Mrs. Takata came back and she taught that we should always charge money for Reiki in the West. That wasn't one of Dr. Usui's rules, but she said we should always charge money in the West for Reiki to show that we value it, because that's how we value things in the West. Well, that might be how the banks value things, and rich people might think they've made it because they've got plenty of money. So they're always going to believe that you can't have anything like them unless you're rich, because that is their security. Their riches are worth nothing if the rest of us are happy enough without them. And people like that, they like to have a crystal dug out of the ground, polished up, and they look after it ever so carefully. They pay a fortune for it, which to them is an affirmation. And fair enough, I mean, if you put that much money in, I think that is quite a good affirmation. But you don't need to buy the things, right? There are two ways, basically, of seeing it. One is called an etheric crystal, which I think I might make a separate video about, actually. But the fact is, any crystal you want is there in the earth. Many of them are in deposits which haven't been discovered yet. And some you can't get hold of very easily anymore. For example, there's a beautiful stone called adjoite. It's a lovely sky blue colour in its purest form. It's very, very hard to find. And when I worked in the shop, I only saw 4 or 5 pieces that the owner had bought from someone else's collection that they were selling off. And they were very expensive indeed. But somewhere down there in the crust of the earth, or in the, whatever the earth is made of, there's a massive deposit of adjoite that no one has ever found and that no one ever will find, because the earth hangs on to its magic. We can't take it all away. And if you want a link to adjoite, or I mean, another one is orbicular jasper. That's getting very hard to find. Most of the deposits we know about have been mined out and it's under the sea. There's got to be loads more of it under the sea, but whether we ever find it or not, I don't know. So if you want to work with a crystal like that, you can't afford to buy one. Don't worry, this really is God's blessing if you haven't got much money, because you start to realise that you can have things even without the money. And you just close your eyes and you breathe deeply. And you imagine, what is that special crystal? What does it look like? What would I feel like if I was working with that crystal? And you visualise it. It's a visualisation exercise. I could talk for quite a long time, but I don't think I could say anything that's going to help other than just go into that meditative space, hold the intention that you want to work with a crystal that's down in the earth somewhere. Slowly, you'll begin to feel your way towards it. It can be very, very subtle, but don't ignore it, because that crystal is there, really, in reality, in the earth, and that crystal will work for you. That'll save you quite a bit. Now then, let me just show you a couple of mine. Okay, I went and picked some up. This is my labradorite. Really, really gorgeous stone, actually. Affords a certain amount of protection, as well as other things, at the beginning of the spiritual journey. And this was the first crystal I bought when I became aware of crystals and what you could do with them. Labradorite, very beautiful. I believe it's Madagascan. It's not very highly figured, this one, but it has all these sparkles and shimmers in it. A very beautiful stone. It cost me £50, 50 GBP, which I think is probably about like $51 or something by now, because the difference isn't all that great. And that was nearly 10 years ago. I've got another one here, and I earned this by working in the crystal shop. This was actually going to be even more than £50, I think. It was nearly £100. But I worked and worked, and there was no money. So I got it, and it's fluorite, green fluorite. Absolutely gorgeous stone, and this is my crystal ball that I do readings with when I'm reading around the fairs, and if I got a stall up or a tent up somewhere doing readings. Fluorite does not like resistance, and I own these things, and I paid for them in spite of everything I was saying about them being free. Excuse me. Because I enjoy working with them, and I felt it would be a good thing of manifestation. But really, you can tune into a thing like that. If you can't think what a crystal looks like, do look it up online. They're not difficult things to find. Also, there are books where you can look these things up. This is one of the best ones. Probably the writings come out back to front on your screen, but that is the Book of Stones, Who They Are, What They Teach, by Robert Simmons and Naisha Arshan. Well, that may be a made-up name because it reads the same backwards as forwards, but it is an excellent book. It was the standard when I came into this kind of 10, 12 years ago. It's still very much the standard now. You can get it for your Kindle. Have a look on Amazon Kindle, type in Book of Stones, nice and cheap. But as thick and as big as this book is, let me see how many pages. We've got lots of pages here. Gosh, about 460 pages of a really, really in-depth understanding of crystals written by people who know what they're doing. It's not the only one. There's also this one, the Little Book of Crystal Tips and Cures, which is not one of the most famous ones, by Philip Permut, and that is a very good book. This is just about the definitive book that crystal healers use. Crystal prescriptions, and I've got to put a rider on this and say, if you're ill or you've got any concerns about your health, do go and see your doctor. God made doctors, if you ask me. It's one of the benefits of this life. But if you really want to work with crystals, this book is a good way forward into them. And I would spend your money on the books rather than the crystals if I was you, unless there's a crystal that really speaks to you and you feel you want to have it. I want to show you one of my favourite personal stones now. I usually keep them quiet because, it's manifestation and everything. But there we go, nothing hidden, that's the rules. And this is my piece of quartz, which I've used in Reiki and lots of other ways. Quartz is a great all-round crystal. It kind of powers up anything you want to do. Not quite as much as selenite does, but it adds a lot of power. And it's a kind of an honest crystal. It's been polished a bit on the tip here and on the other point. It's double pointed, but it hasn't been polished across the middle. You can see, these are the lines where it was cut out of the ground, but I should imagine this is just about its natural shape. I don't think anything's been added to or taken away from this, and you can actually see where she was attached to the earth there. To me, that's more of an honest way of looking at these things, and it's a more honest way of having crystals, because we do like to look after them, isn't it? Intent is everything when we're working with crystals, and so it's so important to have that good intent and to look after a crystal. I once polished an enormous aragonite ball. It was about the size of a football, made of red Spanish aragonite. It's a beautiful stone. Does the same kind of things as obsidian, but much more gently. And I polished it up because someone had dropped it at work, and I've got an industrial polishing machine here, and I had to go at it. Nearly ripped my arms off doing it because it's so heavy. But things started happening. I started having clairvoyant moments. I got more readings coming in than usual. I made quite a bit of money around that time. I can't prove it, but I do think that doing all that work to look after and love and care for this physically real crystal had a lot to do with it. But they all exist down in the earth, and as we're being careful with them, we forget that to have this beautiful polished stone in our hand to love and look after and work with, it's been smashed out of the ground, probably with dynamite. It's probably been blown up out of the ground. It's torn a great hole in the earth. It might have been strip mined with heavy machinery. The best possible thing is it might have been smashed out of the ground by someone with an axe, but I doubt it very much. In any case, you can't have these crystals out of the ground, polished, shining, full of love, unless there's a bit of violence happened to them back some point in their history. And I think for that reason, that's another good point about using etheric crystals or crystals that we can link to which are already in the earth ready for us. Much more gentle. It shows great trust, you see. And this is where we get into the esoteric side of things. This is where it actually joins from being a physical experience and an idea in this world to a real manifestation in the spiritual realms. It's the intent. That is everything. And if we have that intent, then as soon as we start to work with it, we start going in the right directions. Something soon about etheric crystals. I will do it. More coming up in the manifestation series, but I can't make the green screen work at the moment. I kind of wanted them all to have the same thumbnail. Meanwhile, thanks for watching, folks. Keep it real, keep it twig, brother. I'll be back with more before you know it. Bye-bye.